How's it going, guys? My name is Evan and welcome back to ESP Poker. We are on our way to the WYNN to play in their 1-3 game. Last time I played in their 1-3 game, I kind of got cooked, so today, looking to get some redemption, looking to play well, and with that being said, let's get into it. So we buy in for the max of 500, and I'm a little nervous. Seems like there's a lot of wealthy individuals at my table, a lot of people wearing designer. But first hand we get is pocket tens in the big blind. There's an under the gun limp and it folds all the way to me. I make it 15 to go and the under the gun limper makes the call. Heads up to an ace king 7 flop, not really anything for me, but I'm the pre-flop raiser. I'm gonna continue with the aggression. I continue for 15 and he lets it go. Very tiny pot, but helps me settle in and calm the nerves. But it's hard to stay calm when the next orbit, I'm under the gun and pick up pocket kings. I make it 15 to go and we get 2 calls from both middle position players. We go to a flop 3 ways out of position that comes jack high. Pretty good board for us. I feel like I'm ahead 90% of the time here. So for that reason, I decide to bet. I make it 20 to go. And I'm not a huge fan of the sizing. I wish I went a little bigger since we're 3 ways, but both players elect to make the call. Still 3 ways to a turn card that comes a deuce, pretty inconsequential. This time I decide to bet 60, and the first player folds and the second player makes the call. So we're heads up to a river that comes a7. I feel like this card shouldn't change much. In the moment, I was weighted towards him having a strong jack. And he has 205 behind. I think you could go either way with a check or a bet here. But in the moment, I decided to take the aggressive route. I push him all in for his remaining 205. And unfortunately for me, he snap calls and shows ace 3 for the turned straight. Gross. Honestly, I'm not too mad with how I played this hand. The big thing for me though was that flop bet was just way too small, especially if he's going to be calling with a gut shot straight draw. This definitely takes a hit on my plan to get redemption at the WYNN, but we add on for 300, so we're in for 800. Let's just see if we can get some magic going. We pick up a couple blinds by raising some ace-x hands pre-flop, but then we get upgraded to a very good looking hand. I'm on the button and look down at pocket queens. There's an under the gun raise to 10 and an under the gun +1 3-bet to 40. It folds to me on the button, and usually I would consider re-raising this hand, but something seems a little fishy here. When the first 2 players to act both raise, alarm bells start going off in my head. I decide to just call the $40 3-bet. Both the blinds fold, and when it gets back to under the gun, he elects to 4-bet it to 120. And just when I thought the raising was done pre-flop, under the gun +1 decides to 5-bet all in for 450. When it gets back to me, I just don't think we can make the call here. You know, it is possible that both these players have ace-king, but they have been pretty tight players. And based on how the action's going, I just have a good feeling I'm beat. For that reason, I let it go, and under the gun also lets it go, but folds face up pocket kings. I have never seen kings folded pre-flop before, but under the gun +1 never showed, but it seemed pretty obvious he probably had aces. Next hand of note, I got pocket 5s in middle position. I raise it up to $10 and both the blinds make the call. So we go 3 ways to a flop that comes ace queen 5 with 2 diamonds, giving us bottom set. With the flush draw, and since we're not blocking any ace-x holdings, I think it's a good board to bet on, so I bet 15 and both players make the call. The turn is not a great card. It comes a 9 of diamonds, bringing in the flush draw. On this card, being multi-way, I decide to slow down and check, and the other 2 players check as well. Thankfully though, the river comes another ace, giving us a full house, and unless one of them slow playing ace 9, I feel pretty confident I have the best hand here. Starting off the action, I decide to bet $40. I'm not a huge fan of this bet. I think being multi-way here,
this seems like a good place to check raise instead, or maybe bet small. Unfortunately, both players fold, but we scoop a small pot. Next hand of note, we have King Deuce in the big blind. There's 2 limps to me, and I decide to check. See a flop 3 ways that comes 8-8-7. I check it, the next player bets 10, the following player calls, and I make the call as well. So still 3 ways to a turn that comes at 10. I check it, and this time it checks through. So we go to a river that comes at 3, and at this point, I just feel like no one really has anything. It doesn't seem like anyone's really interested in the pot. So I decide to try to buy it, maybe try to get ace high to fold or something. So I lead for 30, and then the next player does something I was not expecting. He goes all in for 230. So I think I had the wrong read here. Following player folds, and I fold as well. Let me know what you think about this hand. Over the next hour and a half, not much really happens. We win a couple small pots, lose a couple small pots, but our stack dwindles down to about 355 before we play our final hand of the day. But buckle up, because this is a crazy hand. I'm under the gun and look down at pocket 10s. I make it 15 to go, and it folds to middle position, who's the same player I lost that big pocket kings hand to, and he elects to 3-bet it to 45. It folds to the small blind, who makes the call, and when it gets back to me, I make the call as well. So, with $135 in the pot, we go 3 ways to a flop that comes 9, 10, jack, giving us a set. The small blind checks, I check, and middle position goes all in for 213. And it gets even better when the small blind calls his all in. When it gets back to me, I clearly only have one option here. I have 311 in my stack, and I'm not going anywhere. I decide to go all in. Now it's back on the small blind, who has me covered. At this point, he's just getting way too good of a price to not make the call. So he elects to put in the extra around $100 and makes the call as well. So we're 3 ways all in on a very draw heavy board. I feel like I'm ahead now, but there's a ton of flush draws and straight draws out there, so we need to hold. Thankfully for us, the turn comes another jack, giving us a boat, and the river comes a 3. I show my hand, and we're good. Middle position ended up having ace king, and the small blind ended up having 8-9 for a straight draw. Crazy final hand that has given me the redemption I was looking for at the win. At this point, I gotta go catch my flight. I decide to rack up and hit the cage.
So we were in for 800, out for 979 for a profit of 179, bringing our poker vlog episode total to a profit of 1969. Honestly, that king's hand early just took the wind out of my sails. I just lost some motivation there. Just wasn't feeling good. I wasn't too happy with how I played it. But thankfully, at the very end of the session, we get pocket 10s, we drill a set, turn a boat, and win a big pot to put us in the green. I'm gonna be playing at one more place this week that it's pretty special. Stay tuned for that, should be a good vlog. With that being said, I'll see you in the next one.